Hey, what's going on, guys? This is going to be a follow-up sort of part 2 / work in progress video for my test of the AK Real Colors paints. Here I have the test spoons that I used in part 1, and here I have my kit that I was working on for that, the HG ryusei-go. It's coming along. As you can see, I've done all the decals on that, panel lining and everything, and it's going really nicely. I really like how that's turning out, but basically what I wanted to test in this episode, another thing that they wanted me to test was just kind of the durability of the paint. Now, it's been like about a week. The paint was totally fine, dry to the touch immediately after, but they wanted me to try it with a few different like things, water or decal solution. I'm going to try, here I have some Mark Softer. I'm going to try some lighter fluid and then some Enamel Thinner on it to see how that's going to work. Now, for my actual kit here, after painting it, I protected the paint by spraying some Pledge on that first, just some Pledge floor sealer, basically whatever it is. It's just kind of working as a just clear top coat and protective layer for the paint. So I did that before doing anything else. So my kind of panel lining and decals was not done directly on the paint, which I imagine probably you guys won't be doing that directly on the paint either, but for experimentation's sake, I want to just kind of give you guys an idea of how that might or might not affect the paint. Now, first off, what I want to try here is just a little scratch test. Now, first up, this is the spoon using AK's own thinner. So let's just give this a little scratch there with the end of this wooden spoon. As you can see, it's pretty solid. Now, this is on a spoon, it's not on a plastic part. So I did sand the spoon first, so it should be pretty same. As you can see, it's not really wanting to chip. I'm scratching it pretty hard, so much that it's kind of hurting my nail. Let's try the metal end, and it's kind of scratching there a little bit, but overall scratch resistance is pretty good. Let's try it with this one has a Gaia thinner. I'm not sure how much the thinner is really going to make a difference in this, but just for the sake of finding out, it does seem this one is a little bit more scratching a little bit easier. And then the final one is with Mr. Color. This one got a few white dots of paint splattered on it, but this one does seem pretty solid as well. Yeah, that really doesn't feel good. It's like nails on a chalkboard. So again, I did use a little bit different thinning ratios for these, but I gotta say probably just with the Mr. Color or AK is just a little bit more resilient to scratching. With the Gaia thinner, it seems like maybe it's gonna be scratching a little bit easier. But let's try a water test here. Just going to brush some water on there. I really don't think this is going to do anything, but they did mention this as something to test. And we'll see if that water is really going to do anything to the paint there. I don't think it is, but we'll just leave that on there for about 5 minutes and then wipe that away and see if it has any effect.
5 minutes later.
Okay, and we're back, and let's see if this water has damaged our paint at all. Wiping that away, doesn't seem like there's any effect there other than, yeah, nothing. I was gonna say just like some of the tissue paper ripping off on this little bits of paint there, but other than that, it's not having any negative effect on there at all that I can see. Yeah, that is going to be perfectly fine, it looks like, with water. Next up, let's try the often dangerous Mr. Mark Softer. Some people use Microset. Some people use Mr. Mark Softer, Mark Setter. It's basically the same thing. So I'm just gonna paint a little bit on a different spot from the water, just so when we examine this up close later we can tell if there's anything left behind. Now this one I have a feeling may do something to the paint, possibly, but still I'm feeling pretty confident that this paint is not going to be affected by that at all, but we'll see. Again, we'll give that just a few minutes to sit on there.
A few moments later.
Okay, and let's give this a little wipe, and it looks like it might have done some discoloration around the paint there. I want to get a closer look at this here. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see that okay. We can see that it did just kind of change the look of the paint there a little bit. It doesn't really seem to have affected the opacity. If you look at it like at a different angle, you can't really see that the opacity of the paint or like the color of the paint was really changed, but it almost seems to have like just affected the finish of the paint, which is kind of odd. But you can definitely see where that decal solution was on there, even now that it's completely dry. So I guess that is pretty unlikely circumstances that you're really going to cake on that much softer and leave it on there for a few minutes. But if you do, that will have a little bit of an effect on the paint there, it looks like. And even on the Gaia and Mr. Color, it looks to have just about the same effect here too. So no matter what the thinner, it's going to have a similar effect there, it looks like. Okay, and for the next test, we're going to try just a little bit of lighter fluid here. Many people use lighter fluid for cleaning up panel lining and the like, so I'm just going to drop a little bit onto my Q-tip here. I'm just going to give this a rub on here as if you were cleaning up some panel line liquid and see if that's taking up any of the paint at all. I can see it's bringing up a little bit of the paint, but again, I'm being pretty generous with the amount of lighter fluid I put on there, and also the amount that I'm agitating the part here, rubbing the part. It really shouldn't take that much to clean up your panel lining. But if it does, it looks like, yeah, it's taking up the paint a little bit. It seems like with the Gaia and the Mr. Color, it's taking up more of the paint, so you can see a lot more paint here on the Q-tip there. But I have found, and I don't really quite understand why, to be honest, that when you're using the Q-tip and like you're using it for a while, at first it's not going to be taking up the paint as quickly, but as you're using it more, it starts taking up the paint more and more. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but anyway, I have found that to be the case just kind of in general, usually whenever I'm using this method. So I'm not really sure if that's more to do with the type of thinner used with this paint or some other reasoning. But again, even after it's taken up a little bit of the paint, I can't really even notice much of a difference where I was taking up paint. The opacity still seems to be pretty intact there. So again, this is extreme circumstances where you probably would never go that hard with it. But if you do, it doesn't seem to have a too strong effect. Now lastly, we'll try some enamel thinner. Now people will sometimes use this as well for kind of basically the same method for cleaning up panel line washes and things like that. So just gonna get some of this on here. This one's gonna be the strongest among these and probably going to do the most damage, but we'll find out here. Just gonna do the same thing. Just got the opposite end of the Q-tip to give us a clean solution there, and yeah, basically kind of the same thing. It's taking up a little bit of paint, but really not that much. I'll try it on the other ones here. Doing like the same amount of rubbing, the same amount of time and pressure, and yeah, it's definitely taking up a little bit more on the other two, it looks like here. To figure out whether that has to do with the order of just doing this one first and the other two second, let's try it doing the opposite. Let's like start off with the Mr. Color or the Gaia. The Gaia maybe seems to be the weakest, but let's try starting off with the Gaia and see if that theory about just the order has anything to do with it, or if it is to do with the thinner. So let's try this. Okay, a little bit there on the Gaia. And yeah, it's definitely taking more. So it seems like the paint is going to be a little bit less resistant to different products, maybe while you're using different types of thinners. Gaia, in this case, Gaia or Mr. Color thinners. So if you're using those, spraying the paint and just like the overall finish of the paint, I think looks just as good and just about the same. But it seems like it's just going to be at its strongest while using it with the AK thinner. So whatever it is about the AK thinner, it's just a little bit different enough from the other types that it's going to be a little bit stronger. Now this one I'm noticing, yeah, after I've been using the Q-tip for a while, it is taking out paint a little bit more. So whatever the case, whichever of these thinners you use, I think you're going to be able to get a fine effect with these. The paint does seem quite strong in general. Looks like probably just to be safe, if you're going to be using these AK real colors, you might as well use the AK brand thinner as well, because that does seem to be like it's probably going to be the best, but it's going to be negligible difference in the results if you use a different product instead. Okay, so the last thing I want to do in this video is not really related to those paints in particular, but just a new technique that I saw that I wanted to try on this kit. It's a weathering technique. Doing chipping using a toothpick. This was from a tweet that I saw on Twitter, and basically instead of using a brush to like do your chipping along the edge of the part, you just use a toothpick. just with a little bit of paint on the end, and you just kind of like roll it while you kind of like spin it as you kind of like drag it away from the part. Anyway, so like a certain motion, I guess that's probably going to be the best way to use it. I've tried this now a few times onto some spare parts, and it seems like it's going to work pretty well. Now, if you're wondering if am I going to thin the paint before doing this, yes, I did already just add some thinner here into the bottle directly. And also, yes, for my chipping in this case, I'm using red-brown just because the color scheme of the whole thing is kind of tan. I figure that will probably look a little bit better. So wish me luck. I'm also doing this with lacquer. So here you can see, just kind of get an idea at least of how that's going to look, just with a little bit applied onto the shield here. I think it's going to work out okay. It's definitely going to take some more practice, I think, for me to get it to really look its most natural, but it's an interesting method, definitely an alternative to using a just fine tip brush. I'm just going to continue on doing a little bit of this around on the kit, and then maybe just a little bit of filtering, and then it's pretty much going to be done. So that's the last you guys are going to see of this until it's done. That should be soon enough. I'll do just my final video showing that off once it's all done and complete. And yeah, all I gotta say is my experience using these AK paints has been pretty good. I'm quite impressed with these paints for sure, and hopefully I get a chance to check out some more. So hopefully that video has been a little bit helpful for you guys. If you were wanting to check out these paints, I can highly recommend them, especially if you're just kind of looking for different options to try out, and especially different color options as well. It seems like these colors are really nice, rich, solid colors, and so they're definitely, it's always nice to have more color options, I think. So once again, thank you to AK for just sending these paints to me. Really cool, and thank you guys for watching. Hopefully the video has been helpful. If you want to see more stuff like this, well, I would like to do more stuff like this. It's just a matter of having the time to do it. So I'm glad I was able to take some time to do this. I think this is going to be turning out to be a pretty cool kit as well. So yeah, I'm excited. That's going to be it for this video, guys. I'll see you next time. Leave any other further questions and comments down below. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. See you next time.